Atmaditam Vaparyantair Murti Madbhi Characharaih Nritya Gita Anekarhai Prithak Upasita.
All beings, both moving and non-moving, from the four-headed Lord Brahma down to the most insignificant living entity, had taken forms and were differently worshipping those viṣṇu-mūrtis according to their respective capacities with various means of worship, such as dancing and singing. Kṛṣṇa is showing up with all his opulences. And full of his potencies. It is showing that as soon as he manifested his form, everybody started to worship all his forms spontaneously. Purport. Innumerable living entities are engaged in different types of worship of the Supreme according to their abilities and karma, but everyone is engaged. Jīvera svarūpa hoy, nitya-dāsa. There is no one who is not serving. Therefore, the mahā-bhāgavata, the topmost devotee, sees everyone as being engaged in the service of Kṛṣṇa. Only himself does he see as not engaged. We have to elevate ourselves from the lower position to a high position. And the topmost position is that of direct service in Vṛndāvana. But everyone is engaged in service. Denial of the service of the Lord is māyā. It's from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Only Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Master, and all others are his servants. As Kṛṣṇa desires, everyone dances according to his tune. Sometimes Prabhupada is saying that Varnashram Dharma is Sanatana Dharma also. It's the vision of Uttama-adhikari. We need to understand that everybody is serving Kṛṣṇa, even in material world. Not always we see that, but this is what we should know. And Prabhupada says that Varnashram Dharma means service, something you cannot avoid or divide from a living entity. Some other things can be changed. The air might be changed. Upadharma, it means it can be changed. But what is the eternal Dharma, the life of any living entity? Therefore, Uttama sees that there are some Vaishyas, Kshatriyas and Brahmanas, but he sees no difference. He sees the same principle of service, Sanatana Dharma. So, Uttama-adhikari is establishing this Sanatana Dharma, the Varna Ashram. So, it means that the main question is, how am I doing my service in the society? So everybody is the servant of Kṛṣṇa, even though Varna Ashrama can be revealed as Sanatana Dharma. And in Asura society, they hide in this Sanatana Dharma. It's more like an artificial civilization, but at the same time, they're still playing that role. And we should understand that it's all artificial because they cannot even manipulate their minds. How can they do some manipulations in this mundane world? Everybody has to be a servant of the Lord. And the lowest society level of a person, usually he's bringing up the lowest consciousness regarding this service that should be rendered to the Supreme Lord. And Uttama, he sees that they are all doing according to the orders of the Supreme Lord. Just like there is a tale that there were two servants, and one servant said to his master that, yes, I will fulfill your desire, your order. And he didn't. And the second one, he said, no, I don't like it, I will not do it. But then he thought about it and he did it. That's the attitude. So if we cannot serve to our master directly, then we serve to Maya. That's the choice. It's just, there are two choices. So if you say, I'm not going to serve the society, it means you are serving your family. Or someone would say, no, I will not serve my family, myself, but you will be a servant of your feelings. This is the hardest thing, to satisfy your feelings, your own feelings. The most stressful and painful process to fulfill the desires of your feelings. And then if you elevate this desire and you'd like to serve your family, that's a bit elevated method, and then you less think of yourself. And then if you serve to the society, then you're even higher than that. Only the Uttama, he knows how to serve, that it should be revealed. The service should be revealed with no egoism, just like the Varna-ashrama dharma culture. Everybody is acting the way everyone around is Prabhu to him, a master. So we are addressing everyone as our master. And everybody is saying, Prabhu, Prabhu, you my master, I am your servant. That's Sanatana Dharma, or Varna-ashram Dharma. This way, it doesn't matter what profession you do, or your place in the society, what kind of... There are two kinds of living entities, the moving and non-moving. Trees, for example, stand in one place, whereas ants move. Brahma saw that all of them, down to the smallest creatures, had assumed different forms of and were accordingly engaged in the service of the Lord Vishnu. One service is a form according to the way one worships the Lord. In material world, the body one receives is guided by the demigods. So it's indirectly connected with the Lord. When we see an animal, it means before a living entity didn't serve or served the Lord a certain way, that he developed his consciousness the way he got his body. So it's more like a distance between the Lord and the living entity. And material nature can make this distance shorter And the shorter the distance, the closer you to the human body.
Потом пожалел об этом, встретил преданных и рассказал об этом, что теперь меня это беспокоит, что делать. Они сказали, что ты должен понять.
It's just like
для чего предназначено это тело. Не убегать от
in my life,
это тело.
I had some problems and I met the devotees and they explained me why I was living and why I had this kind of a body, and then I could understand and concentrate myself on the certain actions, so I would elevate and find my gift inside of me, the gift by material nature. And when there is a punishment, the punishment means I am situated in my consciousness further away from God.
В материальной мире полубоги решают, какое тело получит.
In the material world, the body one receives is guided by demigods. This is sometimes referred to as the influence of the stars, as indicated in Bhagavad Gita 3:27 by the words Prakrite Kriyamanani. According to the laws of nature, one is controlled by the demigods. If you allow material nature to work, and if you don't control it, everything will be done by the nature. We just need to accept our nature, and everything will be regulated automatically. Thus, we can be liberated from false ego. So all we need to do is just to get away from our false ego, and the nature will do the rest. But everybody is trying to control, they're trying to choose what to do, and this is like an artificial situation because everybody is a master. And how do you control how this human body grows or tree grows? We cannot do anything about it. How our mind works, how the tastes are developed, we can only use it or spoil it. We cannot make it better. To make it better means you don't associate, you don't connect yourself to this improvement thing. Maya Devi is a servant of Kṛṣṇa, Durga. And our relationship with the material nature is the model of our relationship with the Lord, Supreme Lord. So material nature is like a copy or a fake copy. Because Ravana, he never could steal the real Sita. It's a mystic. And all the materialistic people, they cannot understand it, just like one Brahman. He was almost about committing suicide in India. He couldn't understand how Ravan could even touch Sita, because only Rama could touch Sita, and she's the purest. She's a potency. She's the potency of the Lord, the purest one. How can that the Ravan could touch her with her lust, or even looking at her, putting his eyes on her? And that Brahman, he didn't know how to solve this thing. He couldn't find the answer in Shastra. And he understood that probably my nature is preventing me from understanding this topic. And the moment he wanted to get this thing done, Lord Chaitanya came to his house. And he said, I can find peace thinking of this. And Lord Chaitanya said, don't worry. It never happened. It never happened. No one can touch Sita. I see your Brahman nature in you. So don't worry.
Если мы посмотрим в лицо, мы ничего не увидим. На стопы нужно смотреть. И если она проявит себя, мы увидим ее.
It was a fake Sita.
Настоящая Сита ушла в огонь.
And real Sita, she came out of fire in the end.
Она никогда не была у Раваны.
And she was never interference with Brahma, with Ravana. He never had such powers. And then Brahman, hearing this thing, he said, "You saved my life." And he started to dance because he got this answer. So this material nature is more like a copy, an artificial copy. And everything here is more like a material experiment. It's like a false identification. There is nothing that comes for free in this world. Everything seems to be belonging to someone, to demigods, to any living entity. The demigods and the trees even have this ahankara connected with Durga Devi. And according to one's ahankara, the type of body is given. So, whether it's a mirror covered with dust or a heart or a child in the womb, it's also covered, or the fire is covered with the smoke. So we can see something in the mirror with this covering of dust, but it's all twisted and not clear. It's more like a vision of an animal. And the fire covered with the smoke is a thing like a human being. Sometimes he can see himself through that smoke. He is more like fire. And sometimes he sees himself through the smoke, but then he covers it. So from time to time he will get his answers and lose his answers, and he's just all the time in pain. There's more like that example with the fire and smoke. But mostly he's seeing through the irritated eyes, irritated by the smoke, like running eyes. And it was in Bhagavatam. All living entities are serving Kṛṣṇa in different ways. But when they are Kṛṣṇa conscious, their service is fully manifest. As a flower in the bud, gradually fructified and yields its desired aroma and beauty. So when a living entity comes to the platform of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, the beauty of his real form comes into full blossom. That is an ultimate beauty and the ultimate fulfillment of desire. So in the liberated state, a living entity sees that any activity, whether if he's dancing or making poetry or doing something else, it's all the service to the Supreme Lord. Here they are saying that they've been worshipping the Lord with the songs and dancing. Everything that the person does, he talks, he thinks, this is the service, this is the liberated state of mind. Me. usually preventing from that. 52nd text. All the viṣṇu-mūrtis were surrounded by the opulences, headed by anima-siddhi, by the mystic potencies headed by Aja and by the 24 elements for the creation of the material world, headed by the mahā-tattva. This is the scenery that Brahma saw. All the potencies. He saw the universal form once, and he would see lots of viṣṇu-mūrtis and his potencies, all the mystic powers, starting from anima. So he was surrounded by all these energies, and one can see that. And behind every energy there is a person, there is a personality. Just like the paraphernalia, the Lord has the Sudarshana chakra and the corn shell, the persons. And there are some close ones like Nanda and Sudanda. It is said that they are always following the Lord and doing whatever He wants. They have all the power to satisfy, to make the will of God, to fulfill it. And some of the things we know, there are no boundaries between the Lord and His energies. Anima siddhi, lakhima siddhi, kamavasayita sita. All of it were there, surrounding Him. It means the Lord, thanks to the siddhas, He could make any forms and fulfill any desires. That's His personal siddhas. But only in the service to theOrd it can be revealed, and you cannot understand who is the Lord. The Lord is not the mystic power. He owns the mystic power. It is the potency is serving to Him, but who is He? No one knows. Usually we understand a person by his profession, but who can really define the Lord? He is the owner, He is the master. And He's not doing anything at the same time, He's just willing. All he does is just, He has some wills, and everybody else is fulfilling the desires of the Lord. In this verse, the word mahimabhi means Aishvarya or opulence. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can do whatever He likes. That is His Aishvarya. No one can command Him, but He can command everyone. Sadashvara Purnam. The Lord is full in His 6 opulences. Sadashvara means 6 opulences. Purnam, He's full. Lord is full in His 6 opulences. The yoga siddhi is the perfection of yoga, such as the ability to become smaller than the smallest, anima siddhi, or bigger than the biggest, mahima siddhi, are present in Lord Vishnu. Sadashvarya Purno Yaiha Bhagavan, Adi 1.3, Chaitanya Charitamrita. The word Aja means Maya, or mystic power. Everything mysterious is in full existence in Vishnu. A yogi can spread himself into 8 forms, or even more. I cannot remember it clearly. Prabhupada was saying, a yogi, he can make some copies of his form, depending on how strong he is. But they cannot act independently, one from another. one from original. It's like you would have many TVs demonstrating the same channel. If the original is raising his hand, the rest are raising their hands. Kṛṣṇa and his siddha is not limited. Same siddha, but it is not limited. He can emanate himself, he can make the ones expand himself. Like in Dwaraka, he did this. He did many copies of him, and they all were original. And then, where is the original? Anantarupa. The original is unlimited. No boundaries. He can be a singular and plural at the same time, but he stays the original. Same siddhas, but in a different quantity. And yogis, they get the siddhas in a little, and some of them can create the universe even. Who did that? Was it Vishvamitra who did? The greatest yogi? One of the greatest. Or they can make heavenly kingdom with their siddhas. The 24 elements mentioned are the 5 working senses. Pancha-karmendriya, the 5 senses of obtaining knowledge, pancha-gyanendriya, the 5 gross material elements, pancha-mahā-bhāgavata, the 5 sense objects, pancha-tanmatra, the mind, manas, the false ego, ahankara, the mahā-tattva, and the material nature, prakriti. All 24 of these elements are employed for the manifestation of this material world. The mahā-tattva is divided into different subtle categories, but originally it is called the mahā-tattva. Or it could be, there is also mahā-tattva and prakriti, who organizes the thing, and the Lord does not interfere into this. The Lord was explaining to Uddhava that the level of perception is connected with perception and the demigod. It's like the fire. It is connected with the shape, and the ruler of the sun. With thanks to all the 3, one can see, but the eye by itself cannot see anything. There should be someone to see through the eye. So the soul doesn't see anything material. It's the influence of demigods. Thanks to them, we see the material light. Meanwhile, jiva is not limited in its perception. It can perceive the soul. It is very rare that we can find such a liberated soul who can see the soul, the living entity inside of the body. But here, thanks to the demigods, under the influence of the demigods, we can see what is given to us, our bodies. And same thing with our mind and perception. Everything is ran by demigods. We're not offering we're not rendering service to these demigods, though, because they're limited. We're rendering service, we're worshipping the Lord, the deity. And this way, we're being liberated from the influence of demigods and ahankara as well. The Lord is the one who can make us liberated. The rest, they just follow His orders. But He is not doing any of this ruling thing. They all do it out of fear. His servants do it. Then Lord Brahmā saw that Kala, the time factor, svabhava, one's own nature by association, samskara, reformation, kama, desire, karma, fruitive activity, and the gunas, the three modes of material nature, their own independence being completely subordinate to the potency of the Lord, had all taken forms and were also worshipping those viṣṇu-mūrtis. This is a picture, mystical picture made just for Brahma, because Brahma, he sees it differently. He makes the living entities that are those elements. They become those elements, and he interact with those elements. If you see some element, Brahma knows that there is a living entity behind it. Just like Brahma just ordering a certain personality and it is being revealed. The thing is revealed. Just as a big boss, he's seeing this construction site and he's just not doing anything, he's just making his order and he sees what the workers do. He doesn't do any of this micromanagement. He's giving his instructions to one of the managers and they run the process. He shouldn't be personally revealed on the construction site. But according to this, people are wondering why the Lord is coming, because he doesn't need to. And only Bhakti can answer this question. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, aham tvam sarvapapyo, you don't really need to worry of anything. He's personally coming and taking care of his devotees. This is the power of a devotional service. And of course, the care can be revealed in a different way. He is the Supreme Lord, so his support and care revealed differently. Sometimes he's given some suffering or obstacles from himself, and the devotee is taking it. He is not taking it for granted, he is taking it with the gratitude. And he's saying, oh, if the Lord is sending it to me, I'll be so happy to take more and more of this suffering. But if there would be something that would take me away from the Lord, I will not going to accept it. So all of these elements, just as kala, samskara, and karma, they all got this form and started to dance the purport. No one but Vishnu has any independence. If we develop consciousness of this fact, then we are in actual Kṛṣṇa consciousness. We should always remember that Kṛṣṇa is the only Supreme Master and that everyone is his servant. Ekala Ishvara Kṛṣṇa Arasabha Britya. Be one. Even Narayan or Lord Shiva, everyone is subordinate to Kṛṣṇa. Shiva Vṛndāvana, even Baladeva is subordinate to Kṛṣṇa. This is a fact.
Это несомненный факт. Ekala Krishna Arasabha Britya.
Ekala Krishna Arasabha Britya. Yare Yachya Nachaya Se Taicha Kare Nritya.
Это отделила цитата та же самая.
Same quote, 542. One should understand that no one is independent, for everything is part and parcel of Kṛṣṇa and is acting and moving by the supreme desire of Kṛṣṇa. This understanding, this consciousness is Kṛṣṇa consciousness.
Осознание этого факта и есть сознание Кришны. Ясту нараянам девам брахма дайватай саматвен найва викшита са пашьянди бхавет друвам. Человек, считающий полубогов, таких как Брахма и Шива, равными Нараяне, несомненно является богохульником. Никто не сравнится с Нараяной, Кришной. Кришна — это Нараяна, а Нараяна — это Кришна, ибо Кришна есть изначальный Нараяна.
A person who considers demigod like Brahma and Shiva to be on an equal level with Narayan must certainly be considered an offender. No one can compare to Narayana or Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa is Narayana, and Narayana is also Kṛṣṇa. For Kṛṣṇa is original Narayana. Brahma himself addressed Kṛṣṇa. Kala, or the time factor, has many assistants such as svabhava, samskara, karma and guna. Svabhava, or one's own nature, is formed according to the association of the material qualities. Karanam guna sangasya sat asat yoni janmasu. Bhagavad Gita 13:22. Sats and asat svabhava, one's higher or lower nature, is formed by association with the different qualities, namely sattva guna, rajaguna and tamaguna. So the Lord's understanding is like everybody is working the way he should, and the Lord doesn't really care of all the activity. He doesn't even consider himself to act. It's only material nature that acts, and he's asleep. But when he's acting spiritually, when someone is acting spiritually, the Lord notices it. So it's the fact that a living entity should understand that the Lord sees only the approaching to Him or going away from Him. So it's a different scale of measurement. Can you get closer to the Lord after this, after you fall down? If it's a material aspect and you're going away from the Lord, that it means you're degrading. We're trying to see this and understand this activity.
Человек должен постепенно подняться до уровня саттва-гуны, чтобы не попадать под влияние двух низших гун.
We should stay in sattva guna, but should not stay in rajas or tamas. We should gradually come to sattva guna so that we may avoid the two lower gunas. This can be done if we gradually discuss Srimad Bhagavatam and hear about Krishna's activity. Nasta prayeshva badrishu nitya-dāsa sevaya. All the activities of Krishna described in Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning even with the pastimes concerning Putana and transcendental, are transcendental. Therefore, by hearing and discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, the Rajaguna and Tamaguna are subdued to that only. Sattva guna remains. Then Rajagun Tamagun cannot do us any harm. Vaishnava Dharma therefore is essential, for it can bring people to Sattvagun. That's why Varnashram Dharma is very important. Tadarjastamo bhava kama labhadayascha. Yeah. Bhagavatam 1:19. Tamagun and Rajagun increases lust and greed, which implicate a living entity in such a way that he must exist in this material world in many, many forms. This is very dangerous. Tamagun and Rajagun It's more like a mechanical activity. There is no conscious. You all depend on the body. If you eat someone, it's tamagun. If you try to support your life, it's rajagun. Rajagun, tamagun. If you just eat someone alive, then Kṛṣṇa says in Bhagavad Gita, it eats the sin. If the tongue is just trying to enjoy the senses, the moment it gets those feelings, everything else is more or less automatically. The belly is getting filled with food, and then the genitals, it is pushing the genitals, and genitals are being active, and the sexual activity is there afterwards. And an ordinary man would ask, but what should I do? Shouldn't I eat then? And how can I answer this question? And only the devotee knows that you just need to take the prasadam. If you take the prasadam, no problem. But if you take the food that was not offered, then your belly will push the genitals, and you're gonna look searching to satisfy your desires. As soon as they're in the restaurant and they have there's food, and as soon as their belly is full, they're looking and searching to satisfy their genitals. That's illusion. It's very dangerous. One should therefore be brought to sattva guna by the establishing of varna-ashrama dharma, and should develop the Brahmanical qualifications of being very neat and clean, rising early in the morning and seeing Mangala Aratika and so on. In this way, one should stay in sattva guna, and then one cannot be influenced by tamagun or rajagun. They can be next to us. We might even interfere with them, but it will not be influencing our mind. There will be no transformation. So we just would be a witness to it. Tadarajatamo bhava kama labhabhayas chaye chetaitair anavidham shitam sattva prasidati. Bhagavatam 1.2.19. The opportunity for this purification is the special feature of human life. In other lives, this is not possible. Such purification can be achieved very easy by Radha Krishna bhajan, devotional service rendered to Radha and Krishna, and therefore Narottama Das Thakur sings Hari Hari Vibhale Janama Ganainu, indicating that unless one worships Radha Krishna, one's human form of life is wasted. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prajayota Janayatu Aso Vairagyam. Bhagavatam 1.2.7. By engagement in the service of Vasudeva, one very quickly renounces material life, and the members of the Krishna consciousness movement, for example, being engaged in Vasudeva Bhakti, very quickly come to stage of being nice Vaishnavas, so much so that people are surprised that Mlechas and Yavanas are able to come to this stage. This is possible by Vasudeva Bhakti, but if we do not come to the stage of Sattva Guna in this human life, then as Narottama Das Thakur sings Hari Hari Vibhale Janama Ganayana, there is no profit in gaining the human form of life. So there should be, all of them should be pure devotees. If mlechas and yavanas been elevated so much, then why are Hindus still on the same level? Well, some of them are doing offerings in the temples, but the devotional service starts with the hearing process, regular hearing. And you can hear once of Radha and Krishna, but you can be always in the process of hearing of the Lord. And if we just heard it once, we are not being relieved. But Prabhupada is arranged in this way that we hear it regularly. And some people, they go to the temple and they drink Charanamrita and they offer their obeisances. But when there's a Bhagavatam class, they pass it and go further. And they would just go from time to time to see those leelas on stage, because listening to sadhu, you need to have some certain understanding, but watching some leelas on the stage, from the stage, even the one who doesn't read any shastra cannot read anything, he can still perceive that. So the society is helping one to have some progress in this. Just like Prabhupada was saying, if a Vaishya is going to get some higher education, college degree, it would be useless. But Vaishnavas, they develop in this taste very quick, the taste for listening of Krishna. Vaishnava is automatically a Brahmana. But listening, it should be regularly done. Just like one would read and, oh, I'm boring, and he will not read it anymore. We're going to finish this purport. Sri Raghava comments that each of the times mentioned in the first half of this verse is cause for material engagement, material entanglement. Kala, or the time factor, agitates the modes of material nature, and svabhava is the result of association with these modes. Material embodiment, svabhava. Therefore, Narottam's Dasa Thakur says, Bhakta sanavasa, if one associates with bhaktas, then one's svabhava or nature will change. What am I thinking of myself? That's svabhava. If I think myself a body, then this is my svabhava. It's not that spiritual svabhava. It transforms. It would be also called svabhava. Devotees, they understand their spiritual identity. Svabhava can be changed. The spiritual identity doesn't change. Our Krishna consciousness movement is meant to give people good associations so that this change may take place, and we actually see that by this method, people all over the world are gradually becoming devotees. As for samskara, or reformation, this is possible by good association, for by good association one develops good habits, and habits becomes second nature. Therefore, bhakta sanavasa, let people have the chance to live with bhaktas. Just like here we have the settlement of devotees. We're all neighbors, we live together. we have some common job to do. Then there's habits will change. In the human form of life, one has this chance, but as Narottam Thakur does, since Hari Hari, Vibhale Janama Ganaitu, wasted. If one fails to take advantage of this opportunity, one's human life is wasted. We are therefore trying to save human society from degradation and actually elevate people to the higher nature. As for karma and karma, desires and activities, if one engages in devotional service, one develops a different nature than if one engages in activity of sense gratification. And of course, the result is also different. According to the association of different natures, one receives the particular type of body. Bhagavad Gita 13:22. Gunapsangasya, it's the association with the guna, embodiment of yoni janmasu, the birth. Yoni is the womb of a mother, and whatever we get, it depends on what association with guna we have. Therefore, we should always seek good association, the association of devotees. Then our life will be successful. A man is known by his company. If one has the chance to live in the good association of devotees, one is able to cultivate knowledge, and naturally one's character or nature will change for one's eternal benefit. This is the commentary of Prabhupada here, very powerful, and it is showing all our practice, devotional service practice. It's a manifestation of viṣṇu-mūrtis, and Prabhupada is given this description, the meaning of this lila. If we can understand this lila, we will have this liberation. Are there any questions? Please tell us where the bhava is. Is it the same with the mood? Modern scientists, I guess they don't know. Well, modern scientists, they don't know anything because they are materialistic. Once I was visiting Almaty, and I got to the lab, scientific lab of some scholars. It was the time when the Soviet Union just broke up, and there was a scientific lab in Almaty. So we had a conversation, I tried to preach them, and they were not accepting or seeing what I was presenting to them as a scientific approach. They are saying it is not a scientific approach because we need to measure everything with the tools. And they were not thinking that I and myself things can be studied. It's like there is no need to understand oneself because we cannot control it. On the contrary, if you deal with the biological body, then you can it can be a field of study. So they were not accepting any of the things we were saying about the spirit and soul, and they were saying it is not science. And then I started to read from Mahā-bhāgavata, where the laws of conscious of morality being described, like what greed leads to, some logical analysis is given. Unseen laws. If an experienced person would just witness certain things, he will see the patterns. And I was reading Mahā-bhāgavata, from Mahā-bhāgavata for like half an hour, and they said, oh yes, this field of science is not demonstrated, revealed yet in our society. So such things as bhava, for example, it's the mood. And who cares about what kind of mood you have? You still have some chemical reactions in your body. They don't understand that there is sthāyi bhava, something that is stable, the stable mood, the love for God is sthāyi bhava. It doesn't change ever. So it can be a subject of study, of scientific study, because it's stable. Sthāyi bhava is stable, more stable than material bhava. Because this body is always changing, the age is changing, the life can get to the end, and where the bhava can be found. So it was more like a reflection, but sthāyi bhava is something, it is the eternal thing, and the scientific mind cannot get any closer to this yet. But a devotee's mind can get into this science, just like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Śrīla Prabhupada, they know sthāyi bhava, and that's why they can describe these processes. And when you read from these books, you can understand. But if you're materialistic, you can say that I do not agree, but you cannot say scientifically it's wrong, because you have no such an experience. How should we apply our power in order to get rid of ego, false ego? No, we cannot get rid of false ego by our powers, by ourselves. Let's say if I am declaring, I'm going to get rid of my false ego, but how can you? Your understanding is all false. How can you get liberated from your false ego by yourself? Only by listening to your spiritual master, and not only listening, by getting in instructions, accepting his instructions, we can be liberated from the ahankara. And we are getting, actually, false ego is giving us some enthusiasm and inspiration. And I think, and it's pretty painful. Sometimes you think you are this kind, and someone says that you are of that kind. It hurts, and you can be upset. But when the Guru says you are not this body, or he says you are a rascal, I feel happy, because he's putting real ego in me. He is not taking my ego away. He's giving some more. That's why it is called the nectar of instructions. In the material world, when someone is instructing me, there is no nectar. And if someone is just pointing at my ahankara, it hurts. So it should be done by the spiritual method.
Chanting japa, when I'm done,
what kind of a result I should have after chanting my 16 rounds. What should I expect of? The result? Of course, when you're a beginner, you're looking for some result to understand the philosophy better or do something better or have some siddhas. He's hoping for it. All the beginners are like that. They expect something from Mahamantra, but on the elevated platform, there is no expectations. There are no expectations because everything is given already. Everything is there. It was there, always. And his result is more like the chanting itself. He continues to chant, that's the result, the fruit. Kirtanya Sadahari, you just continue chanting. The rest is more like being added. But of course, if you're the beginner, you might expect for some enlightenment. The soul cannot perceive the Lord or see the God in this world. Yes, surely you can. If you develop a little bit of Krishna consciousness, everything you see would be perceived as the Lord. Directly or indirectly. Directly you would see it in deities or holy names, Srimad Bhagavatam, but indirectly you would see it through your material activity. So it's more a question of your consciousness development. Everybody sees the Lord, but they might not understand it.
Есть ли шанс у материалиста стать преданным, если он подражает преданным, приходит в храм на Харинаму, на Намахату, стрижется, носит хоти?
Is there a chance for a materialistic person to become a devotee? If he comes to a Namahata, if he's wearing dhoti, and well, the description you're given is more like a devotee description, because he is already engaged in some practice. It's a rare soul, so yeah. You were saying that if one chants his japa, his mantra, as a parrot would do, it will take him lifetimes to be purified. If I attend the temple's programs, can I be rescued? Just like in Christianity, they have this saying that not everyone who is visiting the temple will be liberated, and not everyone who is living in the temple will go to heaven. It can happen in any society. You can be the one who just visits programs, who doesn't live in the temple, or one who lives in the temple. Back in the days, we were very offended hearing that someone would call us, call those who do not live in the temple, the visitor. Back in the Soviet times, one could not, it would be violating the law not to have a job. So we lived at home and were visiting the temple. And we were chanting a lot of japa rounds and been reading Srila Prabhupada and been translating from his books. And everyone thought if you already chant your japa, 16 rounds of japa, you are a devotee, you are not a visitor. And later when someone started to say that there is a visitor, there is a devotee, it didn't bring any, it was not helpful really. It's a formality, this division. We divide men from women, but from the spiritual perspective, it's just formal. Even the division for ashramas is formal, artificial. It only helps some material existence. But in the spiritual world, it doesn't really matter. From spiritual perspective, it doesn't matter. In the society, we say this is brahmachari, this is sannyasi. But any jiva is getting perfection on this path if it continues it. So there's a potency of mahā-bhāgavata in everyone. If you don't leave your devotional service, if you don't leave your spiritual practice, then you can reach that level. So when this term was used among the devotees, like, are you a visitor? And one would say, I'm not a visitor. I always think of Kṛṣṇa. Why do you call me a visitor? And people were even offended by it. But later on, they thought it's okay. And with the time, they started to call some people visitors, and they were saying like, you're grihastha, so your Kṛṣṇa consciousness is weaker. I'm against these terms, really. From a formal perspective, you can say it this way, divide people from like one who lives in a temple and one who visits it. But I would like people to hear it, to call it in a more positive way, because not all the visitors are gonna be lost, or none of those who live in the temple gonna be elevated.
Нет, подождите, само насилие не приближает к Кришне. Оно дает урок человеку, что так делать не надо. Почему над ним совершается насилие? Потому что он совершал насилие в прошлом. То есть это суровый урок кармы. Это отрезвляет человека, дает ему некий рассудок, разум. Как это насилие плохо? Ну, значит, я совершал насилие в прошлых жизнях, или в этой жизни я поступал насильственно по отношению к кому-то. Я получаю реакцию сейчас. Если человек проявляет терпение и продолжает служить Кришне, он считается преданным, все в порядке с ним. Да, здесь мы должны остановиться сегодня. Спасибо большое. Шрила Прабхупада ки джай.